The 2017 draft is one of the better drafts of the past decade. You got Jayson Tatum, he's already a champion and a 6-time All-Star. You got the second greatest scorer ever in Bam Adebayo. Lonzo was in this draft class, and you had other future All-Stars like Jarrett Allen, DeAaron, Lauri, Markkanen, and Donovan Mitchell, but none of them went first overall. It was Markelle Fultz.
I mean, I hated his guts because he somehow decided to go to the worst school in the history of the planet, despite being from Maryland, weirdly enough. But yeah, he had all the physical tools to be a great combo guard. But there's this weird situation in Philly with his form and a potential injury, and just when it looked like he had started to revive his career in Orlando, it all fell apart. So what happened to Markelle Fultz?
Before we start talking about Markelle Fultz, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. So going into the 2017 draft, there were a few prospects that really stood out. First of all, everyone was talking about Lonzo Ball at this point.
Yeah.
He was already a household name from his time at Chino Hills. Then he had that great freshman season at UCLA, and the LeVar Ball mania was going crazy around this time.
We already have a video about this topic, but it's got to be said, LeVar low-key, one of the greatest hype men of all time.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, because he took this kid who, I mean, people would have probably known about him. You know, he's a star at UCLA and whatnot, a star in high school. He made him a legit household name. Fucking everybody knew who Lonzo Ball was around this time.
But you also had Tatum was one of the main prospects in this draft, had all the physical tools to be a great player in the NBA. Wasn't like as mentioned as some of these other guys, especially Lonzo, but was climbing up draft boards after a really good ACC tournament and was consistently in the top 3 of mock drafts. And then you had Josh Jackson out of Kansas. He was the top recruit in a stacked 2016 recruiting class, and a lot of people thought he had superstar potential.
Oh, see, I soured on him watching the tournament that year because Kansas played Oregon in the Elite Eight. Right. He was garbage in that game. He was terrible. He was in foul trouble the entire game. He had one incredible moment where he had like an up and under reverse layup. He looked like Michael Jordan or something like that. Other than that, he was doo-doo that entire game.
And I was pissed because I was trying to hate watch,
of course
and he let me down.
Yeah, he let you down big time. Kentucky also had their 2 explosive guards in DeAaron Fox and Malik Monk. Always remember the game in the NCAA tournament against UCLA. Fox had 39 points and Monk had 24 to take down the Bruins. And besides that, you had some other notable prospects. You know, your Jonathan Isaacs, your Frank Ntilikina's, Dennis Smith Jr., Lauri Markkanen, our boy Zach Collins, who we didn't listen today. I mean, we could have had a guy like Donovan Mitchell or a Bam or a John Collins or a Jarrett Allen or an OG Anunoby or a Kuzma or a Derek White or a Josh Hart or Isaiah Hartenstein. I could keep going, by the way, or a Dylan Brooks.
I would have taken fucking Dylan Brooks.
Honestly, yeah.
Jesus.
Oregon kid too.
Yeah.
But none of those guys would end up going first overall. It was Markelle Fultz out of You Don't. Now, for 2 guys who don't follow college basketball super closely, we're at least like tuned in a little bit with like, you know, the Pacific Northwest schools, you know, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington, Wazoo, Gonzaga, a little bit for you, right? So we were a little bit like familiar with the Pac-12, and Washington this season is fucking terrible.
Yeah, they went 9-22 on the season, including going 2 of 16 in Pac-12 play, which was the second worst team in the conference, of course, only ahead of Oregon State. But regardless, you know, team success in college isn't always a great predictor of individual success in the NBA. And
I would say it's rarely a good predictor.
Yeah, it really is. It's a rare year this year in the tournament where we have all of these, you know, top NBA prospects like playing in the tournament. Usually you got a ton of guys who don't make the tournament. So Markelle Fultz was great on an individual level. I mean, he averaged 23 points a night. That was the most of any power conference player. Also added nearly 6 assists and 6 rebounds, shot 47.5% from the field and 41% from 3. And you look at the tape, the dude was great in college. He was a guard that could basically do everything. And on top of that, he was 6'4", 200 pounds. So he wasn't like a small guard like Dame, even like Steph, you know, who's kind of on the smaller side, or like Trae Young, who's was tiny. He had the size, he had physicality, he had all the tools on the offensive end to be really good. He was getting comparisons to Harden around this time, and this was, MVP candidate Harden because he could score at every level, he could facilitate a bit, and he was like this bigger guard that, played even bigger than 6'4", because I think he had like a 6'9" wingspan. Like, it made sense why he went first overall, because he had the complete package. And honestly, I remember, despite not hearing about him a ton at Washington not being good, like seeing the tape, seeing the stats, I was like, this dude looks nice.
Yeah, but on draft day, the Celtics, who had initially won the lottery, they ended up trading back to number 3, which should have set off red flags for the Lakers and the 76ers. Because if the Boston Celtics, led by Danny Ainge at the time, Brad Stevens was the coach, smart as a whip in terms of team building, right? Those two. If they were like, yeah, we could move down to 3 because we want Jayson Tatum, they should have been like, what do these guys know? They know something we don't, clearly.
So yeah, the 76ers obviously traded up to get the pick to be able to select Markelle Fultz, which, I mean, to be fair, it looked like the potential of an amazing big 3. You got Fultz, who looks like this superstar potential combo guard. You got Ben Simmons, who had just missed the previous season. He was the first overall pick, one of the more hyped up first overall picks we've seen in our lifetime. And you had Joel Embiid, who had superstar potential as a big man. But before Fultz even made his NBA debut, we had the bizarre saga with his jump shot, one of the strangest things I've ever seen in the NBA, let alone something that happened to a first overall pick. First, there were the clips of him taking free throws during training camp. Just looked weird. His form looked off, clearly had changed his form. Wasn't super shocking because one of his few weaknesses at Washington was he only shot 65% from the line. So maybe he's changing the free throw form up a bit. That kind of makes sense. But shortly after that, Brett Brown says he was unhappy with the change in Fultz's form, not just free throws, but on jumpers as well. But he said, normal for a rookie to overthink a change in his form. That's a adjustment they do and just kind of overthinking things, but they would get him back on track.
I feel like it happens a lot in the NBA too. Guys' forms change like a little bit from their rookie year to like the next couple years. And like go back and look at like Steph's rookie year. His jump shot, it looks similar to what it does now, but it looks also very different. Like you could tell there's a difference, right?
But the story only continued to gain traction as Fultz made his preseason debut. He got an and one shortly after subbing in, and the free throw he took once again just didn't look right. So after the game, for the first time, we heard he was experiencing shoulder soreness, and the next day Fultz said shoulder pain was the root of the problem that ultimately caused him to change the form. Once we got to the regular season, I mean, things just didn't get better. He struggled to start the year. His debut was fine statistically. He had 10 points on 5-9 shooting, but basically all those points came inside. He had like one fading jumper in this game. That was about it. And once again, he had a pair of free throws that just looked fucking awful.
Yeah, and over his next 3 games, it was, again, just didn't get any better. Averaged just over 4.5 points per game on 22% shooting. That's terrible for any NBA player, let alone a number 1 overall pick, right? And speculation continued, ramping up. What could it be? Is it an injury? Is it the yips? No one really knew at the time. And Brian Colangelo and Brett Brown, apparently they believed Fultz's jumper was causing his shoulder soreness. And meanwhile, Fultz's agent countered by saying, no, he's actually changing his form because of the shoulder injury. So it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
Like, that's basically what this was, right? Philadelphia, though, they initially kept Fultz out for a few games, but then at the end of October, they announced he would be out indefinitely. Always a great sign, right? Due to soreness and scapular muscle imbalance in his right shoulder. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't sound good.
I think it just basically means like his right shoulder has more muscle than, or maybe it's opposite. I don't really know. Something like that.
He needs to use his left hand a little bit more often.
Right.
Then.
It's the quagmire coming out of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Fast forward to early January, and he was cleared for gradual reintegration to team practices and training. But a couple weeks after that, we got videos of him taking shots, warming up like in practice, warming up before games, and his shot just still looked completely off.
Yeah.
He eventually did return to the lineup all the way in late March, and once again, he wasn't great. I mean, he was better, averaged 7.5 points, 4.5 assists, 43% shooting. Still had the same issues with his shot, though. Only attempted 1 3-pointer through his final 10 10 games of the year, ended up missing it. Shot 44% from the line during this stretch. I mean, Philly as a team was on fire 10 this season. They won all 10 games, then back in the lineup, won 16 straight going into the playoffs. But in the playoffs, Fultz once again just was not good whatsoever. Overall, played in 3 games, scoring just 5 points on 1 of 7 shooting. After that, he was benched for the rest of the playoffs, and it definitely didn't help in round 2. The Celtics taking out the 76ers with Tatum balling out, averaging the most points of anyone in the series on really great efficiency. And overall, Tatum, as we know, with the dunk on LeBron and that whole run for the Celtics.
Without Kyrie Irving or Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, was incredible for the Celtics in the playoffs.
At the time, though, there's still some optimism for Fultz, though, as long as he could fix the issue with his jumper, heal up his shoulder. Still looked like he could live up to that #1 pick potential. Got a new trainer over the offseason. He actually paired up with Embiid's trainer, Drew Hanlon. He's worked with Embiid, Tatum, Beal, Levine, Tyrese Maxey. He's the guy who turned Myers Leonard into a sniper.
He is, yeah.
And not just on Call of Duty, in actual basketball games, right? And Hanlon, when talking about the situation on a podcast, he said Markelle was dealing with one of the most documented cases of the yips that he had ever seen. Although Fultz himself disagreed with that, again, pinning it on the shoulder injury. So again, there's still not a consensus even a year later as to what the actual problem was. Yeah. Was it the shoulder? Was it in his head? Like, no one knew. Maybe it's a bit of both, but either way, still not a great look. But hey, before the season, in an interview with the Players Tribune, Fultz said his shot was back and even better than it was the year before. Didn't really look that way when the year started, to be honest.
No.
I mean, his numbers were up a bit across the board, but he still wasn't shooting threes, and free throws remained a huge issue for him. And after the 76ers acquired Jimmy Butler on November 12th, he was moved to the bench. I remember back around this time, there was some controversy of him even being in the starting lineup, because I think they were starting him over JJ Redick around this time, and people were just like, Redick's better. Like, he just is. Like, he's more experienced. He's better. I get you want to play the young guy. You want to get him experience. But this is a team that's supposedly trying to contend for a championship, and you're actively playing a worse player in your starting lineup.
But as you were saying, after they acquired Jimmy Butler, he was moved to the bench, and only 4 games after that happened, he once again was out indefinitely until he saw a shoulder specialist, and eventually he was finally diagnosed with neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome. As far as I understand from my brief, Google doctor knowledge, it's basically compression of the nerve in his shoulder, which kind of prevents him from fully using the range of motion there. Problem is, there's not like a instant surgery fix. You basically just have to manage it with physical therapy.
Oh, that's always a good sign.
Exactly.
In our era of modern medicine, when there isn't a surgery to correct whatever issue you have.
Right. And since the 76ers, they had Embiid, who had already broken out as one of the best players in the league at this point. Ben Simmons was coming off a fantastic rookie year. He was an all-star this season. You had just made this win-now move for Jimmy Butler. They didn't have time to, continue to deal with this Fultz situation. So before the trade deadline, they sent him to Orlando for Jonathan Simmons, a 2019 second, and a protected 2020 first. A fantastic trade for the 76ers because that protected first ended up being Tyrese Maxey. So
Jesus.
Kind of crazy how well it worked out for them.
And Maxey is honestly kind of the player that everyone expected Fultz to be.
Yeah, exactly. Maxey, a little bit like different, but in terms of like a star guard to pair with Embiid, it's exactly what they needed. So crazy that Fultz played less games for the 76ers than like Anthony Bennett did in his one season for the Cavs, or even though Oden spent more time here, like to give us our own perspective, less games than Greg Oden played for the Blazers. So crazy.
Yeah. On to his time with the Magic, Fultz would continue to sit out the 2019 season with a shoulder injury, but there was again some renewed optimism, change of scenery, proper diagnosis. They knew what the problem was now by this point, so maybe if they got it fixed or he managed it, maybe he could live up to his potential. And during the 2019-20 season, he was pretty good. He averaged 12 points, 46.5% shooting, 5 assists a game. 3-point shot is still non-existent around this point, but he did take more than he did with the 76ers. Still wasn't making him though, but again, I'd rather have a guy that is willing to shoot than, Ben Simmons afraid to shoot, right? Free throw percentage though, all the way up to 73%, which is pretty decent. And his game close to the hoop and in transition was good enough that the Magic gave him a 3-year, $50 million extension. So at least he never got a max extension, right, in his career. Sorry to spoil it a little bit, but he at least got some decent money midway through his career, right? But tragically, just 8 games into the 2021 season, Fultz would tear his ACL in a game against the Cavs and would miss the rest of that year. Wouldn't return for the Magic until February of the following season. But when he did, kid honestly picked right up where he left off and played probably the best basketball in his career. During the 18 games in the 2022 season, shot a career high 47.5% from the field, over 80% from the line. Wasn't always consistent during this stretch, but for a guy coming off a torn ACL, it was good enough, honestly, and he was able to build off that in the 2023 season, averaged a very efficient 14 points per game, 51% shooting, averaged almost 6 assists a game, played in a career high 60 games, and the thing that you had to look at is they were much better when he played. They were 29 and 31 with him and only 5 and 17 without him.
And around this time, it felt like, he finally found his spot. He had this career resurgence. He was never going to be a good shooter, but he at least had this very efficient mid-range game, was good in transition, could set up his teammates, but kind of out of nowhere, the season after completely derailed his career and basically ended his career, at least to the point to where it is now. After starting the first 4 games of the 2024 season, he missed 30 of the next 31 games dealing with knee tendonitis. And once again, unfortunately, his shoulder was flaring up. And it was even revealed towards the end of the season, he was playing with a small fracture in his left knee, which was a complication stemming from the ACL tear back in 2021. So due to all of this, all these injuries, the shoulder flaring back up, his confidence took a hit, kind of reverted back to the version of himself we saw in Philly. And to make matters worse, this was a contract year for him. So just with everything that happened, the Magic now trying to compete in the Franz Wagner Paolo era, they decided not to re-sign him. They had this logjam at guard already. You had Cole Anthony, you had Jalen Suggs, you had Gary Harris, you had Anthony Black now. They didn't need an additional guard like Fultz. And on top of that, they specifically did not need his skill set. They needed shooters. We've talked about the Magic. They've been one of the worst shooting teams in the NBA for years now. I mean, they went all out to get Desmond Bane.
Yeah, so much so that they spent 4 first-round picks on Desmond Bane because they needed shooting.
Exactly. And for a guy that just literally can't shoot, constantly has these shoulder flare-ups, it just wasn't worth bringing him back. And for other teams around the league, you think you might take a flyer on him. But at this point, he's now 26. He's constantly dealing with injuries. That 60 games he played in 2023 was a career high, had missed over half of the potential games thus far in his career. So it also didn't make much sense for another team to get him. He would eventually sign with the Kings in February of the 2025 season.
That's how you know your career is over, basically.
Yeah, unfortunately.
When the only team that takes a flyer on you is Sacramento.
Right, a tanking Kings team. Played in 21 games for them, averaged 3 points a night and 1 assist. And after that, he remained unsigned for all of this season. He did get picked up by Raptors 905, which is the G League team for the Raptors. Actually recently had a game winner for them in just his 3rd game with the team.
There you go.
That was nice to see at least. I mean, we're hoping for the best. They can somehow make an NBA comeback. I think that's being very optimistic at this point, like being realistic. His time in the NBA is probably done. But one thing we have not done throughout this video and we're not going to do is call him a bust, because he dealt with this bizarre syndrome that completely changed his form. You really feel bad for a guy like him. Like you said, it's nice to see he at least got a contract, got some money. He can still play to this day. I mean, the G League players don't make anything compared to the NBA, but at least he's still playing basketball, playing in a professional league.
He could probably do all right overseas too.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet he could land on a European team somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. But he's not a bust. I mean, he dealt with his injuries. He had all the physical tools to be a great player in the NBA, had the skill, and honestly, you feel bad for the 76ers because he was the perfect guy they needed. And at the time, it looked like they had this future stacked big three. So what do you guys think of the Markelle Fultz situation? Did you think he would be a future superstar when he was drafted? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like, and hey, we're here. Check out some other content as well, and don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.